Today, lesson 16C, random samples. Our focus lately has been on probability of compound events. We've worked a lot on sample space. Yesterday, our focus was on compound events that might be independent or dependent. Today, we go in a slightly different direction. So today our focus will be on understanding that a representative sample can be used to make predictions about a large population, and we'll be describing different ways of actually finding a sample. So let's go ahead and get started. Background knowledge. A few lessons ago, we talked about this idea of a probability model, and we worked a little bit on using spinners or coins or dice to actually create a situation that represented something else, and we call that a probability model. And so I have a question for you, and that is this. If you know what a good bowl of soup tastes like, do you need to eat all of the soup in the bowl? Or can you get a good idea of the taste by trying a small sample? Do you need to eat the whole thing? No, I mean, you can tell pretty quickly whether you're going to like the soup or not. And this question sums up the point that we're trying to get to today. It's all about random samples. So a food service company supplies meals for 15 different schools. How might the company get information about students' favorite lunches? Surveying every student in every school would take a lot of time and effort. So have a quick conversation with your shoulder partner. How might the company get information about students' favorite lunches? Go. Heard lots of good things there. One of the things I kind of heard was like this. Perhaps surveying a part, which is where the word sample comes from, of the group, which is the population, would give them information that they need. In other words, it might be most efficient to survey a random sample that represents the whole group or population. So let's deal with some vocabulary here before we actually get into answering some questions here. First, a sample is a smaller collection of units from a population used to determine truths about that population. A random sample is a sample in which every person, object, or event in the population has an equal chance of being selected. And that's what we have to think about in every single situation today. Does everyone within that population have an equal chance of being selected? And then population, that's the entire group considered for a survey. All right, and the way I look at this today is this. If you truly understand what random sample means, every single question today is more about common sense than it is anything else. Okay? So why do we take a sample? Well, because many times it's too expensive and too time-consuming to survey an entire population. Okay? All right, problem number one. Your language arts teacher is having a drawing. All 162 of his students have put their name in a jar. The teacher is going to draw 5 names, but only draws from the top of the jar. Do all the names have an equal chance of being selected? Yes or no? No. All right, so what might he do instead or differently to make it that way? What might he do?
Maybe shuffle all the ones in the bucket and then maybe reach out from the bottom, look around for different areas of the jar. Okay, good, good. So maybe selecting names from the top only does not give the names at the bottom an equal chance. We refer to that sometimes as a biased sample.
I know we have lots of blank areas in the notes today that we're supposed to fill in. It's a biased sample. And the official definition of a biased sample is a sample that does not represent the whole population. And if we go back to the definition of a random sample, it's a sample in which every person, object, or event in the population has an equal chance of being selected. That's not the case when you're just picking 5 names off the top of that jar. All right. So if instead the teacher puts his hand in the jar and mixed all the names around, then picked a name out at random, now all the names have an equal chance of being selected. Okay? All right. This would now officially be a random sample. All right. You're interested in finding out the favorite movie star of the students at your school. Example of a random sample. Surveying every third person who enters the cafeteria. That would be an example of a random sample. We've got more blank areas to fill in. And this is also an example of what we call an unbiased sample. And I think you can already tell that's what we're looking for, an unbiased sample. And so the official definition of an unbiased sample is a sample that represents the whole population. It's not biased. That's what we want. So let me ask you this. I put Drew in charge of something. He wants to get a random sample of some sort of question that I give to him. And he only asks his friends. Is that biased or unbiased? That's biased, right? It's not going to represent the whole population. If he does what's going on here, though, and he's standing at the door while you guys are coming in, and he asks every third person who enters the room, now that's an unbiased situation. That's what we want. Okay? All right, an example of a biased sample is surveying only the people you know in the cafeteria. I forgot that was coming up next, but that's just like the example with Drew. Okay? Make sure you write that down, please. All right, so the rest of today is really about giving you a situation, you trying to figure out whether it's random or not, a random sample or not, and then some more questions about whether the situation is biased or unbiased. Okay, so just kind of applying the 2 main things that we have learned today. And it is biased because it is not representative of the whole population. That is the surveying only the people you know in the cafeteria. So is each sample random or not? I'm going to have you go ahead and do 1 through 4 with your shoulder partner. If it is random with your shoulder partner, talk about why it's random. If it's not random, talk about why it is not random. I'll get back to you in a couple minutes. Number 1 says the teacher chooses the first 6 people who raise their hand to participate in a survey. That is not random. We want random. And this is a perfect example of why sometimes when I ask questions, hands go up, and sometimes I don't call on the people who have their hands up because that's not a truly random situation. I want more of a random situation, okay? Especially at this point in the year, it's like the same people raise their hand. So then I just start calling on people who don't raise their hand. Okay? And it's not random because all the students do not have an equal chance of being selected. Number 2, to choose the players to play in their next game, the coach puts the names of all the players in a box, shakes it, and then picks out 5 names. That, of course, is random because all the players do have an equal chance of being selected, and that's what we want. Number 3, a local restaurant is conducting a survey to determine the eating habits of the county's residents. They hand a survey to the first 50 customers of the day. That is not random because all the customers who come through that day do not have an equal chance of being selected. And number 4, every student at USTAC Middle School attends a rally in the gym. Students are allowed to sit anywhere on the bleachers during the rally. The principal hands each student on the lowest row a survey about the rally. That's not random because, once again, all the students do not have an equal chance of being selected. All right, so now let's go to 5 through 8. 5 through 8, the question is each sample biased or unbiased? Same approach. Do all 4 with your shoulder partner, please. I'll get back to you in a couple minutes. Number 5, you want to survey the number of students in your grade who like history as their favorite subject. You survey all the students at school 30 minutes after school is out. That is biased because what about the students who were there 5 minutes before that? They're gone now. So that's a biased situation. The sample is not representative of the whole population, and that's the whole idea. We need it to represent the whole population, even though we may not be interviewing the whole population. Number 6, you want to estimate the number of adults in a town in favor of free Wi-Fi to all. You survey every 6th person who enters a grocery store. That is unbiased because the sample is random, which is what we want it to be, and representative of the whole population. Number 7, you want to know how the students or the residents of your town feel about a stereo store going out of business. You survey 50 people who enter the stereo store. That is biased because, once again, the sample is not representative of the whole population. And number 8, you want to know the number of students in your school that have a birthday in June. You survey the students in the first row of your language arts class. That is obviously biased for the same reason that the others are biased. All right, we're going to end today with 9 through 12. The question is each sample a random sample or biased? I'll get back to you in about a minute and a half. Number 9, Jen wants to know the favorite sport of adults in her hometown. She surveys 80 people at a basketball game. Or at a baseball game, excuse me. That is biased. The sample is not representative of the whole population. More than likely, the people at a baseball game are baseball fans. So, of course, they're going to say that baseball is their favorite sport. Number 10, Davina randomly interviewed 55 people at a rock concert to determine their favorite type of music. Well, this question is not really much different than the previous one. It's biased. It's not representative of the whole population because if they're at a rock concert, more than likely that is their favorite kind of music. Number 11, Deborah surveyed every person in her town for their favorite type of soda. There was some good conversation about that one where a few of you were focused too much on random. You have to think about what random sample means. It means it's representative of the whole population. If you interview everybody in the town, you have a representation of the whole population. So therefore, that is a random sample. And then, number 12. The school board wants to conduct a survey to find out how much homework students should have. Who should they survey if they want the survey to be biased? You tell me. Students, exactly, because most students don't want to do much homework. They could also interview teachers because teachers don't necessarily want a lot of homework, but they want some homework. Who would they interview, or who should they survey if they want the survey to be unbiased? that would be parents and students and teachers and the general public. Okay? So basically a little bit of everybody to make it random. All right, we are finished for today.